In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. So far, we covered a reference, but we actually didn't finish it. Simply, we want to say that when we use references, we are avoiding to be over explicit. The difference between what is there on page 9, the first paragraph, and the second paragraph is that the second one is going to be over explicit. Okay, we are avoiding to be over explicit. 2 lines to the bottom of the page, and as if the last line, as if the writer is assuming that the reader will not understand unless it is all spelled out. We are not not going to be like the second paragraph. Why? Because the speakers actually understand everything. We are not going to repeat those things. We are not going to spell out those things because they know it. Okay, so we use the references. Okay. Now, as we actually talked about earlier, there are two types of references. In fact, we are talking about endophora. There are two types of endophoric references, which we are going to talk about on page 10, line 4, the new paragraph. There are two types of endophora. You already know. It is part of what you studied in your George Joule study already. Okay, there are two types of endophora. Well, Anaphora and Cataphora. Ana means back, Cata means forward. Now, Anaphora actually refers back and Cataphora refers forward. Well, almost all examples that you know come from anaphoric relations, but there are also cataphoric relations, well, which actually link or make cohesion back or link forward. Okay, link back anaphora, link forward cataphora. Okay, now if you actually simply look at the examples there in the paragraph, in the new paragraph that is on page 10, beginning with the students, okay, you see students not unlike yourselves compelled to buy paperback copies of his novel, notably the first, Travel Light, though there has lately been some academic interest in his more surreal and etc. etc. Well, actually, see, when the writer talks about students, it refers to a student, it refers back to somewhere else. But we don't know what this person is in this paragraph. Why? Because the name is given at the end of the paragraph. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, line 5. Henry Beck. Okay, what does it mean? We have to read all these lines in order to be able to understand who this guy is, because there are references to it, to Henry Beck, but actually at the end it is made obvious who this person is. So this is an example of cataphoric relation. Okay, normally I use the word, for example, Henry Beck, and after that we use he. But what happens if we have used something like his, and after a long sentence or a big paragraph or a part of a big text, we see that this his is refers back to Henry Beck. Okay, so This is another example, a new example of cataphora, a new example of endophoric reference, which is in the form of cataphora, referring forward. Writers actually sometimes make something which in the literature you call it as a suspense. They put you in the suspense. They talk about he or she, but they don't say who this he or who this she refers to. When you continue after a long time, you understand that this she refers in fact to a person, or he refers to a person like Henry Back. Okay? There's another example down here. A paragraph beginning with an actor with whom she was rehearsing caught Coral Brown's fancy. Okay, again, we have used the cataphoric reference. Why? Because she, first we have used the word she, then Coral Brown. Okay? This is not normal. This is something used in the literature, okay? So we call these elements of cataphoric reference. Well, this is as easy as that. So reference normally refers back. But if refers forward, it means cataphoric. Cataphoric. Well, the whole thing could be actually seen on page 10. There's a kind of figure on page 10, which is reference. I've got, look at me, look at my hands, please. Reference has got two types. Look at here. Reference has got two types. Exophora and endophora. Okay? If it refers outside the text, we call it exophora. Done. History, finished, full stop. Now, type 2, endophoric reference. Endophoric reference has got two types. Anaphora and Cataphora. So page 10 is a kind of, let's say, a summary of what we already talked about, reference. Okay, now the last lines that I want to talk about. Okay, 3 lines to the bottom. Look at here. This is nice. There are occasions, line 3 to the bottom of page 10. There are occasions when the noun phrases are not linked explicitly to each other, but the noun phrase is linked to entities simply associated with other noun phrases. Okay? This is called associative endophora. I am just repeating once more. There are occasions when noun phrases, okay, which includes nouns or pronouns, are not linked explicitly to each other. Not linked explicitly to each other. But one noun or noun phrase or a pronoun is linked to entities simply associated with other noun phrases. So we say it's a kind of associative endophora because they work together. This noun phrase works with that noun phrase works with that, etc., etc. So is it a kind of reference? We say yes, it is a kind of reference. It's a kind of reference, but the type is a kind of endophoric reference, and it is called associative reference. Well, actually, if we actually go to page 11, there's a good example there. Okay, these are examples of associative endophora. Page 11, an excerpt called entitled "Pay Attention Please," taken from British national newspaper Guardian. Guardian is a newspaper actually published in Britain. Okay, it is published out there. Now, if you actually read lines 1, 2, 3, and 4, actually you go to line 4 of this paragraph. Beginning with students are almost twice as likely to get top degrees grades if they are taught by good university teachers. Blah, 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 blah. Line 1, 2, 3, 4. Line 4 says something like this. Lecturers. One noun phrase. Another noun phrase. Not just extra spending on students for books, number 2. Libraries, number 3. And computers, example 4. Example 1 is lecturers, example 2 books, 3 libraries, 4 computers. These are working together in the text. Do they have references? Like he or she or it? Here examples are like lecturers are they. Okay? Books, again they or them. Libraries, they, them. Computers, they, them. We don't have these types of things. Simply these are linked together. So the word lecturers are actually used with books, libraries, and computers. Okay? We call these as page 10, and at the end of the page 10 we say associative endophora. Okay, so line below actually repeats what I actually said. Okay, beginning with here, page 11. Here, readers can infer what lecturers, students, books, libraries, etc., are referred to. Okay, these are, in fact, as I told you, associative endophora. And where are associative endophora? Where do they come from? They come from a big pool of these types of reference called presuppositional pool on page 11. Okay, you've got swimming pool. Okay, a pool where there's so much water and you actually go and swim. Okay, but in this pool, instead of water, suppose there are these types of things like a presuppositional pool or associative endophora are actually out there. Okay, so a university is a prepositional pool as well, as actually you continue with that part of the thing. So in this part, we talked about two things like exophora and endophora. Okay? Exophora referring to elements outside. Endophora referring to inside sentence, which are actually grammatical, like the words like them, like they, he, like she, like I, like you, which are endophoric. Now, there is something like associative endophora, which is actually something in between exophoric and endophoric. These are the things that appear on page 11. Go and read. If there are problems with you, actually establish a group with me, and actually I am going to answer everything out there. So far, so good. We just stop on page 11 with substitution and other elements of an ellipsis being talked about in my later presentation. Thank you very much.